Well, I want to welcome everybody to this month's power session, and I'm glad to have you here. I always want to start with some gratitude for the Portsmouth, Ohio Chamber. In fact, we've got Donna helping us there, uh, people coming in and leaving. Um, Appreciate the Maysville Chamber of Commerce, the Grayson Chamber of Commerce, the Adams County Chamber of Commerce, and the Ashland Alliance. They all send out notifications and let people know what's going on. So I'm always glad to have a good group every month just to learn something and to look at life and to look at their job and look at themselves a little differently. So that's what we're doing. And this month's topic is playing a better game. Now, if you tuned in thinking that I'm going to help you with your bowling or your golf, all this may help that a little bit, but that's not the kind of games we're talking about. We're talking about life. We're talking about business. We're talking about serious things that most people don't think of being a game. But that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. So let me move here. I am Dave Beam. I think the folks that are on here now know who I am. I've been married for 39 years, and that's been a wonderful game. My wife and I love each other, and we just enjoy each other's company and have done life together for 39 years. I have three sons, Michael, Aaron, and Nathan. We saw them all over Thanksgiving and all their crews. And that was crazy fun. That was a game for sure. That was a crazy game. I am the granddaddy of all granddaddies. I got to be in that role. I've been a business leadership coach for really about 22 years. And in that role, I've helped businesses and organizations improve and do better. That's what coaches do, is they help you win a better game. I'm an ACBC certified biblical counselor. I do that through Wheelersburg Baptist Church, and have done that for longer than I've done coaching. Help people with personal issues, marriage issues, and that sort of thing. I have a passion to help people, and that's really what brings all this together. So if you're here to get some help, just to have a little bit of fun this morning and just to look at things a little differently, then come on in. Let's get started. I've got some rules, and I share these rules at the beginning of each of these presentations because if you want to get the most out of this today, these are the four things that you need to agree to. And I call them rules of the game. And we're talking about playing a better game today. So this first rule is, I think, the key, the cornerstone rule is you need to agree to be an owner. Folks, we live in a world of victims. We live in a world of people that more and more are feeling overwhelmed and overcome by everything around them, that their lives are defined and controlled by their environment and by other people. And I'm appealing to you this morning to adapt a different mindset, at least for the next 30 to 45 minutes, to own it. What that means is I'm going to step up to the plate and be responsible for my actions, for my results. I'm going to be accountable. You can count on me. I'm going to measure what I do. I'm going to look honestly at what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And we're going to see that doesn't need to be a downer. That can actually be a real encouragement if you do it well. But it is a choice to own it and to quit blaming other people and making excuses or just not dealing with things. So if you're willing to step up and deal with things today with a smile on your face and with some fun, then that's ownership. So ownership is all about playing a better game. Second, it's about participation. If it were me on the other end of this call, this Zoom, I would get out a piece of paper and probably be ready to take a few notes, a few things that just occur to me as they come to my mind so that I can look at them later. That's one way to participate. Another way to participate is not to try to multitask, but just stay really engaged with what we're doing. So think about it for a minute. How can you participate 100%? Third rule, we got 4 of them. Number 3 is to drop what you know. What do I mean by that? Well, all of us have a degree of stubbornness, and we certainly have a degree of prejudice, and we certainly think we know. And we do know some things. But what we know is so small compared with what can be known. It's really in our way when we feel like we know. It's good to set that aside and just say, isn't that interesting? I would love to be curious today. Think about children. Why do children learn so much? Well, biologically, maybe they're a little more open to it. Their bodies and their brains are at a place where they absorb more. There's sure a biological component, but I think there's also a thinking component that when people are curious and interested and they kind of set the ego aside, they learn so much more. And I call it dropping the I know. Just don't know anything right now. You can pick all that back up when you leave, but just come into this open minded to listen and to consider a different way of looking at. We're going to look primarily at your job and your life, those two things, in a game mindset. This is a shift of thinking. And there's going to be a resistance probably there saying this is just fluffy or this doesn't make sense. When that voice starts up, just set that I know aside and say, no, I agreed in this rule to drop that. And we're certainly going to have fun. Games are about fun. If you're not having fun playing a game, probably not playing a very good game. And I know games can be very difficult and very competitive and very challenging, but that doesn't mean they can't be enjoyable, as is life, as is your job, as are your relationships, as is the way things go. So look at those 4 rules, kind of make a decision in your own mind to own it, to participate fully, to get rid of what you currently think and know and set that aside, and to have some fun. If you're ready, if you got those 4 rules under your belt, you're ready to go. Let's go. I'm going today look at several distinctions because I love distinctions. If you've been with me before, we think as human beings in distinctions. If I say day, you say night. If I say up, you say down. If I say east, you say west. If I say happy, you say sad. If I say life, you say death. People think in duality. And when you see a distinction, you don't really have to explain it anymore. You don't have to talk about it. It's there. And so I'm going to have a series of these distinctions that if you'll get rid of the I know and open your mind to it, and one of these or several of these will flash, you'll get that light bulb, that blinding flash of the obvious, and you'll see it, you'll have it. And it may very well change the way you approach your job, the way you approach your life, the way you approach yourself. So let's talk about this first distinction. Game versus shame. I'll be a little bit of a pop psychologist here. I don't really go there often, but when you were younger and you played games and you didn't win, you lost the game. You messed up, you did something foolish. You just didn't play the game very well. You didn't really know what you were doing. Most of us, typical human beings, would have shame over that. We would be ashamed of our performance. I remember when I was in first grade and I sang in the Christmas presentation, come they told me, parumpa-pum-pum, and when we come, if you remember that phrase in that song, when we come, I was the only one in the group of about 40 kids that sang that phrase at an open spot. Now, you would think I would be proud. I actually sang a little bit on tune, but I was shamed. I felt really embarrassed and really bad. We're talking about embarrassment. We're talking about guilt. We're talking about that down feeling when we're not winning, when we're making mistakes. I am challenging you all as adults, grown-up people, to adapt a game mentality in your life versus a shame mentality. So let's talk about what that means. If I'm a supervisor, if I'm a manager, and I have a team of people that report to me, I have a team of people I'm responsible for. If I look at a game mentality, I'm going to think of myself as a coach or as a leader or as the person that's going to help everybody. And we together as a team, that's game talk, are going to achieve things together. If I have a shame mentality as that leader, when people mess up, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be headed to the principal's office. They're going to have to answer to me or to somebody other than me that's higher than me, but they are in trouble. Oh, they messed up. They didn't get to work on time. They called off. They're late. Now, as a coach of businesses and organizations, I certainly think people need to be accountable for their commitments, and they need to know clearly what those roles and goals are in their job, and they need to commit to those and agree to those. So I'm all about that. People hire me all the time to help with accountability, but accountability doesn't need to be shameful. Shaming, do you think it's an effective way to coach? There's a lot of people that do it. There's a sports aspect out there that we know about that used to be a little more common than maybe it is now, where coaches would take growing children and shame them into doing better and make them feel terrible when they messed up. And it's yelling at them and putting them down and even using names and telling them they'll never amount to anything. And just this, I call it diarrhea of the mouth, this ugliness that comes out that just shames other people. And certainly we do that to ourselves at times. We just kick ourselves and we put ourselves down. Now, is guilt legitimate? Certainly it is. If I mess up, I'm guilty. I'm not saying that we're not accountable for our actions. I'm talking about a response to our actions. Is shame a helpful response? I'm going to say, while you're shaming yourself and shaming other people, nothing's getting fixed. No one's getting better. And I think it's almost unnecessary. If you're going to have shame, have a moment of it. I say shift it to a game mentality. A game mentality is I'm learning. A game mentality is everybody messes up, but that's how you learn. A game mentality is I need to test and measure my actions, and when they don't go well, learn from that. And so I'm not so much a loser as I am a learner. It's going from being a loser to a learner. We're not talking about participation trophies. I'm not talking about, well, there's no people that do better than others. Of course there are people that do better than others. Game mentality is also about competition, and games are competitive, and some people do better than others and they play the game better than somebody else. That's just true. And when we deny that, I'm not talking about getting rid of the competition piece or the comparison piece where it's appropriate. But I am talking about getting rid of that negative disrespect and putting down of another human being. I don't think it helps. I don't think it's necessary. And even if a person has to be dismissed from a team, it doesn't need to be done in a shameful, deprecating way. That's on you as a leader. And that's on you not to do that to yourself. Putting yourself down and running yourself down the road is another expression of self-centeredness and selfishness. You need to get over it, buck it up and smile, and get back in the game. and don't sit on the sidelines and kick yourself, and go back and learn some more. So game versus shame. I want you to take those two words with you today and think about them. And notice when you're in situations in life and in your job, when are you in a game mentality and when are you in a shame mentality? And is it possible to change to game versus shame? All right, let's go on to our next one. Now, take a look at that. I'm not a real fan of smiley faces emoticons, but I had to use them for this one, this bunny slipper slide. Dean Koontz, most of you probably heard of him, prize-winning author, millionaire, maybe billionaire, one of the most prosperous authors that's ever been. And here's what he says. Bunny slippers remind me of who I am. You can't get a swelled head if you wear bunny slippers. You can't lose your perspective or start acting like a star or a rich lady if you keep on wearing bunny slippers. Besides, bunny slippers give me confidence because they're so jaunty. Now, I want you just to appreciate that statement by Dean. And here's what he said when he wrote this. He said, I am so successful in my field of writing based on my income and the number of books I've sold that I can get really proud and have an ego and start to take myself too seriously. And he said that does nothing but restrict the creative process. He said, so what I do, I guess he literally has done this. He says, I have a pair of bunny slippers that I put on. And whenever I start to get too frustrated, too shameful, too upset, too stressed out, I look down at those bunny slippers and have a good smile and say, quit taking it all so seriously. Even those of you that have very serious jobs, that do very serious things, doing it in a light way versus a heavy way, doing it in an uplifting way versus a down way. Oh, too much seriousness, folks, kills it. It kills the creativity and it brings people to a lower level of presence and a lower level of energy. So I'm encouraging you, even if you have to go out and find a pair and buy them, but to put on your mental bunny slippers when you start to get too serious, have a good laugh at yourself, get rid of the shame, and play it like a game. So bunny slippers. It's another great lesson from a coach. People pay me a lot of money to coach, and they get lessons like bunny slippers. Okay, let's look at this one, this distinction of winning and losing versus learning. Most people's mentality when playing games is you either win the game or you lose the game. I'm either a winner or I'm a loser. I'm saying that mentality can shift to I'm a winner or I'm a learner. So instead of losing, I learn. What do we mean by that? Well, there was a coach, I can't remember which coach it was, that had a fairly new team. So they weren't really that good together, but they went out against a real difficult opponent and they won. And they were in the locker room after the game just hooping it up because they had won the game. And the coach came in and he celebrated with them. He said, guys, I'm glad you won, but we need to meet here in a few more minutes. I got something else to talk about. And they came back and he said, you guys did not execute what we had practiced this week. And he says, that is a shame because if you had lost the game today, you would learn from that. You would be sensitive to that. You would be open to going back and looking at the films and seeing where we messed up. But because you're winning, you have this attitude right now that, we're doing great. So you have a little bit of a prejudice. And I'm glad that you won and you won the game, but you didn't win it on the terms that we talked about last week. Now, was he doing a little bit of shaming? I don't know. He was just pointing something out to them and saying, Most teams learn more when they lose than when they win. Think about it. We demonize losing. We demonize struggle. We demonize pain and challenge. We're Americans. We love our comfort. We love to win. We love things to go well all the time. Have you noticed lately that isn't life? Have you noticed that that isn't the way the job is? That isn't the way other people are. It isn't the way you are all the time. And I'm saying, folks, if we can learn to have game versus shame when things are difficult, that is what we're after. I want to be a learner. And so when I go into a situation and I don't win, I don't get the result I wanted. What can I learn from it? Don't just get through it. Try to get from it. What can I get from a game that I'm not doing so well at? In other words, I'm not getting the points. I'm not getting the goal. I'm not getting it done. Do I go into shame or do I go into a learning mode? What can I learn from this struggle? What can I learn from where I didn't do well with that? So I can be a winner or a learner. I don't have to be a loser. That's the point. Hope you see that distinction. Again, I hope you're just jotting these down to give them some more reflection later on. This is an interesting distinction. Direction versus perfection. This is a leadership distinction. There are those of you out there, maybe on this call, that are a bit perfectionistic. You love everything to be exactly right. Now, I like precision and I like order and I like things to be in their place. And some folks are even a little OCD, and if they're not exactly in their place, it just bothers them. But this idea of perfection is, if I'm anything less than perfect, I feel shame. If my team is anything less than perfect, they should feel shame. That is not a game mentality. A game mentality is, I'm a work in progress. A game mentality is continuous improvement. A game mentality is that it's about the direction that I'm going. It's not about the destination. It's not about being perfect. It's about moving that direction. And when my team or I am moving in the right direction, that's when I'm celebrating. Not that I've arrived, but that I'm moving that direction. It's about direction, not perfection. And when we're moving the wrong direction or away from the goal, then it's about correction. Direction and correction, not perfection. If you get it, it's another shift of thinking. That as a leader, I'm looking at what direction are we going? Have we improved? Are we getting better? Did we learn from our mistakes? Well, then that's winning, in my view. That's winning the game. If we're going the right direction and we're improving. And if you never play a bigger game or more challenging game, you can look good, but really your direction kind of is thwarted. You just start to stay at one level. But if you continually challenge yourself, you can continue in that upward direction. So direction versus perfection. A direction mentality is playing a better game. A perfection mentality is a frustration, because you'll never be there. You'll never get there. Perfection is not a good goal. I think excellence is a great goal. Excellence is a higher goal than perfection. I don't know if you've ever thought of it like that. But excellence says I compensate for the fact that I can always do a little better, and I can always learn something, and I can always play a bigger game. But excellence is about direction, not perfection. So just take some of those words. I'm going to give you some, seconds here to percolate on that and kind of take that in. Because again, that's another mind shift. Any one of these mind shifts today could be helpful to you. Maybe all of them will be at some level, but there might be one today that really resonates with you, and that would be worth the time that we spent together. All right, let me move on to the next one. I love this one. I bet you can tell which one of those words is a game word. It's puzzle. Now, I don't like complicated puzzles, but I like simple puzzles, and I like certain kinds of puzzles. And puzzles have, some fun associated with them. Problems. People don't like problems. I say the word problem. It's even got a lower tone in my voice. Problem. Oh, another problem. Who wants problems? If you'll start to look at your problems as puzzles, you've moved into the game versus shame mentality. Problems are about struggle. Problems are about things that ought not to be the way they are, shouldn't be that way. Puzzles are just a set of things that I need to objectively figure out. They are to be solved. So, how would you use that? How would you make that practical? Maybe you're having a financial problem right now. Maybe your finances are really tight and even you're failing there and you're having some shame about that. How do you move that into a game mentality? Well, it's just a math puzzle. It's not a financial problem. It's just numbers. And these numbers have to turn this way, and these numbers have to turn that way. And it becomes an objective puzzle to figure out versus this huge, burdensome problem. It's the same situation either way. But in one sense, you're looking at it as something to figure out and fix. And it's a game. How do I win this financial puzzle? How do I solve this financial puzzle? Versus a problem that's just a burden to carry around and it worries you and it keeps you up at night. And in that mentality, lack of sleep and anxiety and all this pressure, you don't think clearly. You don't solve the puzzle very well. Sometimes this is why people hire a coach, to get them into a puzzle mentality. He or she is outside of the situation. They can look at it objectively as just a set of things to figure out. And that lighter bunny slipper approach, that's game versus shame, you can get your creative mind works much better. Your thinking is much clearer because you're not heavy with all the problem mentality. It's the same set of circumstances, folks. I'm talking about ownership. It's owning the situation in the sense I choose to look at it in a way that I'm going to play the game better. I'm going to be most effective. That's what a coach is all about, is helping you be most effective in playing the game. Well, you are who you are. The circumstances are what they are. We are at a certain place in our life and our ability and our skills. So how can we play the best game given what we have? If we look at it as a puzzle to solve, then we'll think better and on our feet and get things going. If we look at it as, oh, this is an overwhelming problem, I'm just overwhelmed. Overwhelm is a state of mind. Overwhelm is not a reality. Overwhelm is the way you see it. If you can see it without the overwhelm, you're more likely to solve the puzzle. How do you do that, Dave? It sounds good on paper. It's through conversation. It's through learning the habit of objectivity, being proactive versus reactive. Those are learned skills. And as a leader, I'm sure I have many leaders on this call that help other people. Help your people learn how to think. Don't just tell them what to think, but teach them the skills of problem solving. And this is a good lesson for problem solving. Turn it into a puzzle. Look at it objectively, not so subjectively. Problems tend to linger on the inside of us. Puzzles are out here on the table to work. Again, another distinction: puzzle versus problem. I think at the end of our thing today, I'm going to go back through these distinctions really quickly so you can see them all together because they're all connected. Let's go to the next one here. Person versus performance. If I'm playing a game, I'm going to look at all my players and the position they're in and how they're performing. They're all human beings that I'm going to love and respect. That's my choice. My choice is to respect them. My choice is to appreciate them, regardless of what their performance is. because my performance isn't always great. It's a grace thing. It's an unconditional acceptance of people, the person. But as a coach and as a team, we're not going to accept poor performance. Can you make the distinction between the person and their performance? Can you make a distinction between yourself and your performance? Shame doesn't make that distinction. Shame bases how I feel about another person based on their performance. I'm going to feel great about you always. I choose to do that because you're a human being. But your performance may not be up to snuff. Can we have a clear conversation about performance on our team without attacking people? Can we work the puzzle? Can we attack the problem in the puzzle and not the person? I think you can, but you have to distinguish between the person and the performance. I'm going to treat the person with kindness, but I'm not going to treat a bad performance kindly. We're going to kick that to the curb and make it better. We need to help people detach from their performance and say, we're going to respect and uphold people and their dignity and be kind to them, but their performance is going to be accountable. They're going to be accountable for their performance. Their performance is going to be filmed. Their performance is going to be measured. We're going to have a score. That's not a commentary on the person. There's no reason for them to feel bad when they get a lower score. It's what are they learning? I hope you're seeing how all this laces together and creates a game versus shame mentality. How to play a better game. You play a better game when you distinguish the person from their performance, whether that's you or whether that's a team member or whether that's your whole team. Finally, feedback. Now, you've come out of Thanksgiving. This may not be your chosen diet, but it still is a great picture of a wonderful breakfast when you're in that mode. So I've picked that picture out just because I think it's a great looking breakfast. And here's what Ken Blanchard says, author of The 1 Minute Manager and many other great leadership books. He says feedback is the breakfast of champions. Think about an Olympic athlete that's going for the gold medal. Do they want their performance to be critiqued? Absolutely. They want people to be picky with them. It's sometimes a few seconds difference that wins the silver to the gold or the bronze to the silver. It's just a few minor little changes that can make all the difference in winning that award and that gold medal. And so a person who has an ambition and a competition and they want to learn, they want to go and win, they want feedback. What if all of our employees and all of our team members and you wanted feedback? What if you truly wanted honest, clear feedback on your performance? Here's the question at the bottom of this slide. Why would a person want feedback on their performance, and why would they want it from you? If you're going to play the better game as a coach and as a leader, you're going to uphold the person and support the person and encourage the person, and you're going to give absolute, honest, and clear feedback on their performance. Being unclear is unkind. People need clear feedback if they want to get better. Now, if you have people on your team that don't want to get better and they don't want to go in that direction, then you've got another issue to deal with. But I'm talking about a winning team, a team that wants to win, that wants to improve, talking about leaders that want to be better. They love feedback. It's the breakfast of champions. How to give effective feedback is another session that we can have sometime. Who do I need to be? Who do they need to be? What agreements do we have to have? What kind of communication will we have? So there's another statement. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Maybe you can share that with one of your team members that you work with. Say, would you really like some clear feedback? I see you as a champion. Most champions love good feedback. So before I go to the offers today, we're having a little bit shorter session today. I want to just run back through these distinctions really quickly as a way of summary. We looked at game versus shame. Game versus shame. Just let those thoughts come back to you on that one. We looked at bunny slippers, that taking life and jobs and other things and people too seriously can get us into trouble. So we need to get a pair of those slippers and put them on and have a good smile, not take things so seriously if we want to play a better game. Learning versus winning and losing. It's a different distinction. I'm a learner. If I win, I learn. If I lose a game, I learn, but I don't feel like a loser. I don't even feel like a winner necessarily. I'm a learner. Direction versus perfection. Perfectionists are frustrated. Switch your thinking to, are we doing better? What direction are we headed? How do I know? Keep score. Keeping score is a great game mentality. That's why I know objectively we're on the right path. Puzzles versus problems. Let's take our problems and turn it into something fun to figure out and work through. The person versus the performance. It's the distinguishing between the individual and what they're doing. I'm going to respect and be kind to the person, but we're going to be very clear and direct about the performance. We're going to give clear feedback on the performance. And because feedback is the breakfast of champions. That's what I have for you this morning. So here are the three offers. If you want a little bit more from me, if you would like just to have these slides with these distinctions on there, I'll be glad to send them to you free if you'll email me. The second offer is I've got a couple of articles that specifically talk about emotions, things like shame, that get into a little more detail. If you'd like those articles, I'll be glad to send them in that email as well, attach them as PDFs. And then finally, if you'd love to have a conversation with me, and there's just really something on your mind or on your heart, you'd just like to share it and like to bounce it off of me, upon request, I always typically offer that on these sessions, because that's my joy, is to talk to people and listen to them and help them get clear and help them get better. So if you want to give me that blessing and give me that gift of a conversation with you, I would really enjoy it and appreciate it. Here's how you get in touch with me. The best way to do it is to email davebeam@mentordavebeam.com. The mentordavebeam.com is a website that has all these presentations I've done monthly for about 2 years. You just click on that. It takes you to the YouTube link. That's all to you, just for clicking. And I've also got in that website a whole library of articles, about 200 articles that I've written through the years about all kinds of topics like this. That's all available to you at no charge. And so those are the offers today. I appreciate you being here, and we're ending a little bit early today, but I don't think anybody ever complains when we get done early. Sometimes they don't like it when we get done late. So with that said, I'm going to say goodbye now and stop my sharing. And thank you for being with me this morning.